What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk about keyframing effects and how to be able to customize them and make them come in and out at certain points within the clip. Now let's get started. Now, if you enjoy watching these videos and you want to see more like it, please subscribe to the channel because I'm constantly creating new content. So let's just head down here in the timeline. You'll notice I have a clip of a drone shot kind of following this bus coming down, and the bus kind of meets and then exits, and then it just stays on that kind of lower frame. So I want to add a couple effects. I want to maybe add that letterbox effect that kind of mimics a cinematic look. You kind of see some YouTubers do where it looks like it comes in at a certain point. It's not there the whole time. And then to add to that effect, I want to add maybe a nice color tint to change the color of it. Let's start with the letterbox, the kind of cinematic black bars. So let's head over here into the project panel, and you're going to notice different tabs above here. There's an effect tab. Click on that. If you don't see it, to the right, there might be some drop-down arrows. That's a drop-down menu. If you still don't see it, come up here to Windows and make sure that the effect has the check mark next to it. So I'm going to look for the crop effect. So you can do two things. You can come in the video effects and scroll through all the different folders to find what you're looking for. Or if you know what you're looking for, just come to the search bar. I'm going to type in crop, and there it automatically takes me there. So it's saying it's inside the video effects folder, it's inside the transform folder, inside the video effects folder, and then there's the crop. So there's a couple of ways to apply it to a clip. You got to make sure the clip is activated, which is the white bars around it highlighted. You clicked on it. You can then just double click on the crop, and you're going to see that it already places it up here inside the clip. Or I'm going to Command Z to undo that. Or you can drag it directly to the effect control panel up on top, and that'll automatically apply to the clip. Or I'm going to Command Z to undo that. Or you can drag and drop to the clip itself. Either way it works. So I'm going to come up here to the crop effect that we just added, and I'm going to come up to the top, and let's come down 15%, and let's come to the bottom and come up 15%. So that's the look we're going for. But now the problem is, if you go to the beginning of the clip, it's there, and if you go to the very end of the clip, it's there. So I want this effect to be able to come in at a certain point. So say when the car's about here, that's when I want it to become active. So what we can do from this point to make it come in at a certain point, we need to add keyframes. So if we come up here where I've added the 15% on the top and the bottom, if you come to the left, you're going to see a little stopwatch icon, and it's going to say toggle animation. So we're saying at this point, we want to add some keyframes to be able to adjust the effect to come in and out as we please. So I'm going to click the keyframe here on the top and the bottom, and you'll notice here, it automatically placed a keyframe in this section here. So still nothing has changed because at this point, there's no other keyframe to work from. So we'll move it back a little bit before, and we'll come down here, and you're going to see add or remove a keyframe. So I'm going to click one on each level. So now we've placed a starting keyframe and then the ending keyframe. And you can toggle back with these arrows to be exactly accurate where the playhead will land. And remember, the playhead up here represents the playhead down here. So if you move it down here, it moves it up there, and vice versa. If you move it up here, it represents that. So just to make sure we're on exactly that point, I'm going to come over here to the left. And this is where we're going to change the effect. So at this point, at this starting keyframe, I don't want that effect to be active at all. So I'm going to bring that down to 0, and then I'm going to go to the bottom and bring it down to 0. So now it's saying from the start of the clip up into this very first keyframe, it's at 0. But once it hits that keyframe, it's then building up to that point where I have the 15% bar. As I drag it over, you can see it slowly enter frame. And we're going to have it stay there for a while, and then on the exit, I'm going to apply another set of keyframes. So as it's exiting, I want that to go away. So I'm going to come here where we saw the add and remove keyframe. I'm going to add another keyframe on both lines for the top and for the bottom. And then we want it to work out. So maybe when the bus is gone, that's when I want it to disappear. So I'm going to set another keyframe. So let's come back here to the third set of keyframe, and it's still represented at 15%. I want to go to the fourth keyframe, which is the very end, and I want to remove this back down to 0. So I'm telling it from the third keyframe that's been staying at the 15% to fade back out on the way out to 0. So to start from the beginning, we've told it to be 0 until it hits this keyframe, and then we've told it to gradually build up towards that 15%, and we've told it to stay there until the third set of keyframe, and then start to descend down to the fourth keyframe, which we've set at 0. And then it stays that way for the rest of the clip. You can do this as many times as you want and play with the variations, any combination. So let me go back here to the front. I'm going to render this clip out real quick. So now if I play it, you're going to watch the playhead start, build up, and then have the effect to be in a full. It stays in full effect, and then it tapers out. Perfect. So now I want to add something else to that. You can add multiple effects to play with the same timing on the keyframe. So let's come back here. Let's come to this second keyframe we have. And let's say I'm going to add a tint. I want to change the color. So during this quote unquote cinematic moment, I want it to have a different tint or a different color to the footage. So I'm going to search for tint. And the same thing, I know this clip is highlighted, so I can just double click. It'll automatically add it. You'll notice now under the crop effect we've added, it now has the tint that we just added. But you can see the image is black and white because on this effect, 100%. But if we drop it down to 0, it goes back to the original thing. This concept applies to any effect you add. And you can do it to multiple at the same time. Keyframes, you can add any place you want and adjust the effect accordingly. And remember, all effects apply to a clip. You have some sort of keyframing option that you can make the effect come in and out to whichever levels you want during that moment by using keyframes. So now I've made this tint amount to 0, so it's still back to the way it was, but I want to follow this set of keyframes. I want to apply this tint effect along with the same keyframes that I have for the crop effect. So let's use these arrows to make sure we get on point. And let's go to the second one. So when this black bar is in effect fully, I want to add a keyframe down here. So I'm going to come over here to the toggle animation for the amount of tint. And now it's going to drop automatically a keyframe there. Now I'm going to go back to the previous one because I want to match up crop effect. I'm going to add one more keyframe here. So now I have the two keyframes matching the first and the second one of the crop. So now I want to go back and say, at this point, I want it to be 0 on the first keyframe. And then the second frame, I actually want it to be more in effect and have that black and white. Now, because I don't have a keyframe down here for the third and fourth to match the crop, it'll just stay black and white the whole time. So it'll start, fade into black and white along with that. And if I don't place anything on here, it'll just stay that way, which I don't want to do. I want to match the crop. So come up here and use these arrows to toggle to make sure you're matched up exactly with the keyframe above. And then just add another keyframe. And while I'm at it, I'm going to jump over here to the end and add one more keyframe. So now we've added 4 keyframes that match exactly the ones above with the crop. But you'll notice it's still black and white all the way because we haven't adjusted the values. So let's go back here to the third keyframe, and it's still valued at 100% for that tint. Let's move to the fourth one. Now with the fourth one I want to adjust. I want that to go back to 0 because I want it to go back to the full color as if the effect wasn't there. So now if we go back to the third, you can see here it's still 100%, and then as we move the playhead slowly, you'll even see this number here slowly go down to match 0 on the fourth keyframe. So I'm going to go back to the beginning. I'm going to render this out. So now when I play it, you're going to see it approach the first keyframe. Now both effects, the tint and the cropped, will come into effect and start working its way up to the value that we decided and set for the second keyframe. It's going to stay that way until we hit the third keyframe because we've told from the third to fourth we wanted to change values on both of them, and they're going to go together because we've placed the keyframes to match on the same moment. So I'm going to click play. That's perfect. We've lined up all the keyframes to match each effect, and you can move these at any time. Say we want to decide I want these to change effect a little bit earlier. If we come in here and we'll play it out, you'll see it, the black and white starts to fade in the middle here because it's working its way to the keyframe, not to match these because we've moved them. And then it comes and then the black bars go away. And we can do the opposite. We can say move them to be afterwards. So it's still black and white the whole time, but once the bars end, then it starts to fade back to color, following this set of keyframes. But I'm going to move those back to where they were. So now they match. Anyway, that is how to add keyframes to an effect to be able to manipulate it throughout time inside of the clip for it to be effective at whatever moment you decide is best. Anyway, I hope this helped, and if it did, please give it a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm, and if you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe to the channel. That being said, have a great day. Later.